The FNCS heat stages were out of this world. We had literally the hardest heat in Fortnite history go down. The battle of Peterbot and Pollo versus Veno and Agers, which didn't actually happen. On NA West, we had Ark and Lacy, Faxon and Salco attempt to qualify for the grand finals, but what went wrong? Which top teams and what is the drop map looking like for grand finals? There's lots to talk about, so let's unpack the entire FNCS heat weekend with this recap. Just gonna start off with the story you guys want to hear. Lacy and Ark, Faxony and Salco, Heatwave Harbor in Heat 2 for NA West. I was thinking, talking to the stream beforehand, saying it would probably be near impossible. I'd be more surprised, actually, if the guys didn't qualify through, it being top 18 for consistency. Ark already essentially solo qualified them through play-ins. Salco, kind of the same thing, even though Faxony had been playing very, very well. Come into the actual heat stages, well, first off, triple contested right out of the gates. Faxony goes to work, makes the game opening play, and game number one for Faxony and Salco was actually pretty well. Ark and Lacy were a little bit below that curve, but they still made a decent showing. It's just more and more as the tournament went on, you can kind of see the struggles, the inconsistencies. For the most part, both of these teams had a lot of troubles when it came to accumulating that storm surge. Being at Heatwave Harbor, some of those zones went far, far away, so there wasn't that many teams to sit at their spots and get surged. They had to venture outward, and with some of these zones pulling far, they would also get tagged up. I know Lacy was taking a lot of damage, at times Faxony and Salco as well. So throughout the course of these games, all five, they had so many troubles for storm surge. So later on in the tournament, you had a couple opportunities. Game 4, Ark and Lacy getting jumped on, Ark trying to fight for surge, they go down, and in the last game of the day, they had similar struggles, but it all came down to just a bad shockwave rotation, where if Ark would have just played the medkit, the chances of them qualifying go through the roof. It was like 10 points or something that they needed to qualify, and they missed out. Salco and Faxony, though, 108 points, 24th place, which means they got 19th in terms of consistency. And this is where you look at teams like Compton and Snevy. They were inside of that bubble. They got a victory royale. Minute and B-Dog, even though they weren't inside of that bubble at the time, they got a victory royale. So some of the teams I expected to kind of move everything up did get their victories. It's just they weren't able to get enough points at the bottom for either one of our two superstar teams to qualify. And at the last game of the day, you had Cougar and Trunks. They were the only team left alive at a certain point in the lobby, and if they won it, the threshold would not move up. Anybody else, if they won it, Faxony and Salco would qualify, but Cougar and Trunk pulled off a victory royale, got their spot in finals for heat number 2. Going down the list, I feel like if you like a player in NA West, they more than likely got top 18 in consistency or one of those victory royales. In heat number 1, that's where it continues to get amazing on NA West. It was a little bit more of a stacked heat. This is where you had teams like Epicwell and Pump, Phoenix and Retro, KJ and Soul all qualify through consistency for the most part. You had Wizixi and his duo Variant qualify with a game win, Z-Link and Enact, Hearn and Mez, Moppings and Mukatov and Trexer and Shotgun B all get your victory royales. For the most part, when it comes to Heat 1, even though it was a little bit more stacked, you did have all of your big names make it in. Outside of maybe a few, Combat and Yumi will have to go through the LCQ again. Yasir and Koffs will have to go through the LCQ again, along with Source and School. So this is something where School was trying to play with Lacy as well. He's trying to play with Faxony, didn't work out. So maybe this is something where we might see a battle of those guys and School in the LCQ. But let me know who you think is going to round out this finals by going through the last chance qualifier. Moving on over to NA Central, though, heat number 1. It may not have been as stacked as heat 3, the hardest heat in Fortnite history, but this one was what came with their own surprises. Our 5-game winners, Jargu, Carillion, you can kind of see what they've been doing as of recently. Javi and Aminished, again, another one of our top teams. You even had Slepsy and Donnie clutch out a 1v2 in the end. Donnie does it again from trios to duos, securing their spot in the grand finals. But these last two names might be a little bit of surprise. Webster and Encrypted actually won a game, and Okus and Zonda as well. They were kind of landing at the same drop as well, a little bit of a split, one after the next. They eventually make their way in finals, and then the 3-1-3 house goes absolutely crazy.
Oh my God! Okay! Double fucking posted on the lead.
Other than that, you did have teams like H-Cube and Vlex play phenomenally. First place overall in consistency, Ritual and Cold. You had Josh Niamzo, Visuals and Threads. Again, most likely a who's who of everybody qualifying that you would expect. But Moneymaker and Fortnite coming on over from EU. They were essentially right there on the line. They had two bad games to start off the day, which essentially cut their heat runs early. Hottie and Double Pump. I forget what his name actually is. I had it at the top of my head, but I just lost it. 132 points, another close call. Outside of that, when you look at this heat, you'd think everybody who made it in that you would think. For the most part, everybody else will have to go through LCQ, and the last chance qualifiers open to every single division. You're allowed to switch rosters, but it is still region locked. On Heat 2, though, this is where I had a lot of excitement. There was a team, Jordan and Brennan, the game after game, they made it to the Heat stages by skybasing, and in two of their games we saw them up there in the clouds. I know I don't like to show my biasness, but this was a team I had my fingers crossed, legs crossed, everything crossed to hope they made it in. The first time we saw them, they went down eventually to storm sickness. They were unable to kind of get up there with their skybase, and then the next game, which was the last game of the day, we saw them up there. They weren't just up there, they were there in the end game. It really came down to them and one other team. It was Oliver, OG, and Xpon. Normally, I'd be mad at whoever wins the game and takes down the Skybasers, but this one, I'm okay with OG and Xpon. Xpon from NA West, by the way. We're invading your guys' region this time. Next up, we had Tyler and Curly, Dash and Noxy, and Acorn and Bolts, and Cade and Realiseel make it in through game wins. Acorn and Bolts versus Reed and Cooper in game one. Both of them seemed disappointed that they actually won the game, and Bolts and Acorn specifically weren't able to play the rest of this one out. For Reed and Cooper, a little excited to get a little bit more practice, especially knowing that they will be contested at Wonky Land. But when it comes to consistency, you had 20 in Chimp first place, Victor V and Queasy in second. Victor V played absolutely insane at one point or another, maybe still having over a 4.0 damage ratio, showing that Mythic Pistol and Queasy by his side can look unstoppable. You had Yuz and Sharkman, Liam and Jace, Havoc and Cat, Seek and Talkie, Sales and Vert, Marops and QK, Vive and Veer, which Veer and Liam did break up beforehand, kind of forming right back together, and then Quick and Avarsky. In this heat, we did have legends such as Miro and Mason miss out on qualification. Miro is now a free agent looking for another duo for LCQ, and then most importantly, we had Shadow and Virgo miss out on qualification. And you have to remember Shadow and Virgo, because as we move into Heat 3, the one where we thought we'd see Peterbot and Veno go head to head with Aegis and Pollo by their side, never happened because Shadow and Virgo didn't make it in. Veno saw that as an opportunity to actually move drop spots to Heat, Wave, Harbor, so we never got the fight we were looking for. And throughout the course of the day, it worked out perfectly. Even though Veno and Aegis were contested by Bucky and Cam, game one, they take down Cam, Bucky's still left alive, Veno and Aegis do their thing. Game two, they take down Bucky and Cam. Game three, they take down Bucky and Cam. And I'm somebody who had Bucky in my fantasies league, so most of that tournament, I had -4 points out of Bucky, and it's the reason why my fantasy team didn't do so well, but I believe they can pull off some heroics. They did it last major. Unfortunately, Bucky and Cam will have to go through the LCQ, but for Veno and Aegis, that means Heatwave Harbor is now theirs. And throughout the course of that game, they went after teams like Hanada and Sphinx. They went after Dragon and Creon. In fact, they're the direct reason Dragon and Creon did not qualify. They went over multiple times for that Mythic Pistol, fighting over Dragon and Creon, sometimes taking them down, but Dragon and Creon were about like at 108 points going into that last game. They took down Veno, and instead of playing their game out, they for some reason chased Aegis across the map to Lifty Lodge, which then ended up putting him in the line of sight of Higgs and Curve, who are playing phenomenally, getting that last win of the day. Curve 18 eliminations, by the way, chased it into their territory. Aegis ended up going down, but Dragon and Creon ended up going down. Then they go on social media, so Dragon and Creon essentially getting, I feel like, leading with their emotions and forcing a fight against Veno and Agers, who didn't need. They were already qualified, and essentially throwing it all out the window. But in terms of consistency, King and Craze, King specifically played out of this world. They both went around getting eliminations, hunting teams down instead of sitting in a boring old sky base. Because of Agers and Veno going down in that last game, that landed them in second place. Peterbot and Pollo in third. Causers, aka Gutterleaf and DK in ninth. We have Cynic and Cirque going to be next up on the leaderboard. Weenie Warrior and Zen, aka Paper, and Zen is going to go ahead and get 150 cents. Somehow Paper always makes grand finals. I'm not sure what type of deal he has, what type of sacrifice he's made, but he always seems to make it into the grand finals. We had Max and Smiley pull up, kind of have a good second half to the day. Most of all, they got a third place with 10 eliminations, which really closed their gap. Then you had Contrap, Darcy, Alongo, Boji, and then Skittles and Cayenne. You also did have Spear and Cash, who kind of pulled up in the second half of the day, kind of missed out on that opportunity. Most importantly, Kanata and Sphinx, partly because Veno and Agers went and disrupted the flow over on that side of the map. So Kanata and Sphinx, his threat, he is threatened right now because his streak of every single grand finals appearance is now on the line. Dragon and Creon at 111 points because they took down Veno in that game, ended up in 22nd place overall, just outside of the actual consistency bubble. So again, another one of those heats, even though it was just as hard and one of the hardest heats in Fortnite history, you got to think most of the teams that entered this heat that you think would make it out did make it out and are now playing in the grand finals. When it comes to the LCQ for NA Central, 5 games, all those game winners make it in to round out the top 50, and in NA West, 4 games, 4 game winners round out the top 50. So with all of our heats done on both of those regions, we're going to take a quick preview of what the drop map is look like. Keep in mind, this can change a ton before grand finals, especially since 5 more teams need to make it in from the LCQ. But as of now, Veno and Agers uncontested, Peterbot and Pollo uncontested. You continue to look towards the north, Higgs and Curve, Victor V, Queasy, Aviv and Veer, Ritual and Cold, all uncontested. You start to look at some of the contested fights on the map. Curly and Tyler going over towards Sunken Shores. They have Cade and Realiseel, Contrap and Darcy in a triple contested fight. Josh and Yamzo at Wonkyland have now been contested by Reet and Cooper. Reet and Cooper have been practicing their off spawns by a ton, so this is going to be a very, very interesting fight, especially with global championship spots on the line. And again, more and more teams have to go ahead and fill in this lobby as well. Muzz and Rise against Max and Smiley. So even though Curly is not going to actually contest them here on this side of the map, Muzz and Rise still will remain contested. Webster and Encrypted, a little bit of an uncontested yet contested split drop. They might be able to escape loot. This is exactly where they played in order to qualify for the grand finals, so I don't expect them to switch too many things up. We have Paper and Zen versus Alvaro G and Xpawn. It might be too early for predictions outside of the usual. Clicks Rapid, Peterbot and Pollo, Agers and Veno, Ritual and Cold, all expected to play well in the grand finals, but we're going to keep an eye on see where those 5 teams land. Let me know what your early thoughts of this drop map is in the comments below. This is where on NA West, very, very similar, just a preview, 46 out of the 50 teams still waiting for 4 more, but you have a lot of our top dogs uncontested as well. Epic Well Pump, Phoenix and Retro, Zeno and Larcos, Raygun, Blood Gangsta, along with Minute and B-Dog at the top side of the map. We still need to figure out what's going on with Salco and Fact City, because if somebody gets removed from the leaderboard, they will move in unless they disband. If 3 teams get removed from the leaderboard, we'll get Ark and Lacy. They do have plans to play the LCQ. It's just so many different things can happen with that, because if a team gets removed, Ark and Salco play, that can leave Ark out of business, with Salco still making it in with Faxity. If they disband and 2 other teams get removed, then Ark and Lacy will make it in. I know Ark and Lacy are attempting the last chance one more time, so there's just still so much that is going on and that can still happen with NA West. But as of now, seeing some of the contested fights, Compton and Snevy, who are already inside of that consistency bubble, still managed to pull off a win. They're now contested by Quang Tang and Dylan. That's a drop we see on most regions that is contested. Tons of gold, tons of heals, and not too many teams rotate around, so you should have a relatively easy rotating out if it does max pull. Over at Wonky Land, you do have a triple contested fight. Sprite and Fast, who actually new to me coming into this heat stages, but I was actually pretty impressed for the most part. They're going against, regulars on the region, Dustin and Caden, Jules and Bean, so triple contested there. We have seen teams throughout the heats triple contested their spot and all kind of go their separate ways. We also seen them fight it out, so I think anything can still happen. Timco and Suds, Blink and Peopletron at Latte Landing, north side of the map, and Acton, Z-Link, Quasra, and Thor. These teams actually contested each other in the same heat, and both of them ended up qualifying, so we're going to see that continued battle throughout the grand finals, and just continue looking around. Heatwave Harbor as of now, Vort and Pax versus Variant and Wizzy. Please forgive me. Let me know in the comments below, how do I say his name? Wizzy, Wizixi, I don't know what it is, but I'm eager to learn because they earned their spot in the grand finals. I'm going to be doing a full, unofficial, official NA West broadcast, so if you guys like the FNCS vibes, you want to continue that from Central to NA West, make sure you guys join in twitch.tv/JacobMvPR or here on YouTube as well. I stream on both platforms, but that's going to do it for this video. Heats for NA West and Central over. Let me know your guys' thoughts below. Early preview of the grand finals drop map as well. Who do you think is going to take that first place spot? Or maybe you're like me and you want to see where the rest of the teams land, but let me know in the comments below. But that's going to do it for me. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. It really does help the channel grow. And I'll see you guys on the next video. Beep, beep.